Hi, I'm Kesenya. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with the Astro Weather Report for the week of the 1st of April right through until the 7th and 8th of April. We're going to be looking at what's happening in the skies. There's so much to share. Thanks for joining me. Now, I know that these are particularly hard times. The world is in quite a state of turmoil, and a lot of it is to do with fear. Now, I've spoken about that in my last few Astro Weather Reports, so I'm not going to go into great detail about that. However, one of the results of this fear is that a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are without income, they are self-isolating at home, and the economies around the world have all significantly shut down. This, of course, is quite concerning. I want to share a story with you, and some of you may have heard me share this story before, but I feel that it's pertinent to what everybody is going through right now in terms of jobs and career instability and so forth. Back in 2018, there was an eclipse on my sun, which happens to rule my 7th house. I'll just explain that. I'm a Pisces rising, everybody knows that. And so Leo is my 7th house. The sign of Leo is ruled by the sun, and the eclipse occurred on my sun. Sorry, not 7th house, 6th house. The eclipse occurred on my sun, my 6th house ruler. 6th house is work, daily routines, jobs, things that pay the bills. So around the time of this eclipse on my sun, which rules my 6th house of work, a week after the eclipse, I lost a job, and I had been employed in a fairly, menial type job in publishing for a little while, and for no reason whatsoever, I was let go and not given any reasons. It was really a traumatic time. It was around tax time, and I feel that my only assumption is that it was a financial reason that I was dismissed. Certainly I hadn't done anything wrong. So there was a lot of injustice around it, and it was quite upsetting, especially as a single mother. I had 3 children to care for. I had a mortgage to pay. I've been caring for my children on my own since they were all 3 of them in nappies. So this was quite disconcerting, and I was like, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to make ends meet? How am I going to feed my teenage children now? They eat so much. And it was very scary. And so began a 6 to 9 month period of, oh my God. And I applied for every job under the sun that I could possibly find, got a couple of interviews, but never went anywhere with anything. And it was like there was this iron wall in front of me. I was banging my head against it. Come on, universe, get behind me here. I've got to work. I've got to take care of my family. It was such a hard time. And like I said, it lasted sort of 6 to 9 months of sort of living on the edge. How are we going to pay? I want to tell everybody that this period, even though it was difficult and hard for me, the universe had my back the entire way. We never missed a mortgage payment. We always had food on the table. Yes, we had to tighten our belts. I had to go without my store-bought coffee once a day, and we had to sort of cut back on how we ate and what we ate, and sort of things were tight. It was hard. But the universe had my back the entire way. I got through, I managed, I made ends meet, and we managed to keep going. Because of that experience, I was ushered into full-time astrology work. I threw myself into it, read a bazillion books, more than what I already had. I devoted myself to astrology videos online, to connecting, to doing my astrology work to the best of my ability. And what came out of that period was the knowledge that this was my dharma, and the universe had kind of kicked my butt to get me into where I was meant to be, not to stay in a lackluster, thankless career or occupational piece of work just to pay the bills. The universe wants better from us than that, more from us than that. The universe wants us to fulfill our destiny and the potential that's in everybody's astrological chart. I wasn't doing that. I was sort of farting around, if you want to term it that way, just getting by, and the universe wanted more from me, wanted to take me more into my dharma. Out of crisis periods comes great opportunity. And that's what we see by the current configuration that's happening in the skies at the moment with Jupiter-Pluto making a conjunction in Capricorn. Crisis can emerge and be reborn into opportunity if we allow it. And I want to encourage everybody who's a bit sort of up in the air, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get through? How am I going to feed myself? How am I going to make ends meet? The universe has your back, and out of this crisis can come great blessing for us as individuals if we allow spirit to move through us and guide us and show us where we should be directing our steps. Now, a lot of people out of this time are going to change careers. A lot of people at this time are going to find their dharma. A lot of people at this time are going to change the purpose in their life. So it is, in that sense, an exciting, if somewhat risky and scary time. I want to encourage you, that's what worked for me, moving into that. We got through that hard time, and now I'm doing what I love, what I'm passionate about, what brings me joy, what makes me jump out of bed in the morning. The same is going to happen for so many people around the globe who've been stuck in lackluster, thankless, heavy work situations. There's going to be a change now. So in many senses, this could bring blessing if we seek the highest manifestation and the highest vibration that this time has to offer. I've been saying this for quite some time now. This is a time of purging and releasing and letting go of what doesn't serve. In fact, 2019 right into 2020 has been all about that, letting go of what isn't serving you. And now it's come to the crunch. Those of us who've been blessed to have let go prior to this might be in a position where we're going to navigate this with a greater sense of peace. If we haven't been doing the work to let go of the stuff that makes us low vibrational, then we're going to sort of have, in a way, the universe kick our butt like it did for me in 2018. The universe is going to kick our butt about those sorts of things now and make us get on track with where it really wants us to be. Now, Heather from Beyond Astrology and myself will be doing a video very soon all about finding our purpose. And it's very pertinent at this time as people are reevaluating who they are, how they function, their place in society, what the structures in their life look like, and we reevaluate what we're here for. What are we doing? What is our purpose? Heather and I are going to really dig deep with that. So do keep an eye on my channel and Heather's channel for information about that video coming out soon. In the light of the purging that I've been talking about here, the releasing, the letting go of what isn't helping us to fulfill our dharma, our purpose in life, I want to encourage everybody while we're in, say, lockdown or self-isolation, wherever you are in the world and whatever your country happens to be imposing, I want to encourage everybody at this time to do the self-exploration, to do the self-healing. One of the ways that we can do this is through getting energy healing. Because you don't have to be present in the same room as an energy healer to receive the gift and the blessing. Just a little bit of a background on what I've been doing as we were leading up to the end of the astrological year. I mentioned this in a video a couple of weeks ago. I was doing a cleanse, a purge, a fast, which was very beneficial to me, letting go and releasing of toxic energy and toxic chemicals and toxicity basically in my body. I was releasing that through a change of diet from the beginning of the year, and then a 7-day cleanse program at the end of Pisces season. Now I've merged into the Aries season, which is about new beginnings and fresh starts. And my partner and I are going to go on a vision quest next week to fast and to sort of be in presence of spirit and find more of our purpose and our dharma. If you're blessed to be able to do that sort of thing, this is a good time to self-isolate. We're going out in the bush to a mate's farm, and really just cutting ourselves off from the rest of the world for 3 days, and from each other too. We're not going to be in each other's presence for that 3 days. But really that is the energy, the warrior, the survivor, the vision quest seen from, in this case, Aries season. So processes like that are really good to be doing now. They help us, they support us, they lift our vibration and the energy on the planet. Just a heads up, I won't be doing a video next week because I will be on my vision quest. But another thing that I've had happen is I've connected with a really wonderful energy healer. I was going down this road a moment ago. I've connected with a really wonderful energy healer, JAMILAH, and I'm in Australia. JAMILAH is in Bangkok, and we've been able to have a beautiful, she was blessed me and uplifted me with a beautiful Reiki session that was so powerful. You know, even though I'm in Australia, I could feel her energy moving in my body and releasing toxins, releasing past attitudes and beliefs, letting go of, purging my body of toxicity at a soul level, at an attitudinal level, at a belief level. It has been profound, and I'll leave JAMILAH's links to her website and Facebook pages, etc., in the description below. Do check her out. She is a fabulous energy worker, and she's like, I have no, I'm not getting any cut back from sharing this with you. She's one of my clients. We've connected, via email and so forth over the years, and we've connected through this energy healing just recently. It was such a gift. So while we're in lockdown, while we're in isolation, it's a great time, if we can, to reach out and connect with people like JAMILAH, who can help us release what is blocking us from moving into our Dharma and our purpose and our mission in this year, this 2020 of change and redirectioning for the whole of humanity and for us as individuals. So do check out JAMILAH. She's amazing. So thanks for listening to my intro. So much to share, and I appreciate all of you beautiful subscribers and viewers who actually listen to the intro piece of my videos. I am so grateful for that. It does give context, and it gives far greater richness and depth to what we are experiencing on the planet at the moment and in our individual lives, rather than just jumping straight to your sign. Now, this week in the astrological skies, there's quite a lot happening. There's a lot to get through, so stick with me on this. We have, on the 4th of April, we have Venus moving into Gemini. Here she goes into the sign of Gemini. This is where she's going to be retrograding, and where she's going to enter her retrograde period next week on the 9th. So I've got a video coming out all about Venus retrograde. Keep an eye out for that one. It'll tell you all about what to expect during Venus retrograde in the sign of Gemini, but we're moving into that zone now. So this is important. Venus moving into Gemini. She's changing out of her own sign, Taurus, where she's been comfortable and at ease for the last few weeks, and now she's going into a new sign. What are we going to get when Venus goes into Gemini? Well, we become a bit more playful, and goodness, don't we need that on the planet right now? But particularly in love. Venus rules love, and Gemini is to play, to have fun, to play games. We're going to have more fun, more play in our love lives. Now, I went for a walk on Sunday. I've been going for a walk every day, but on Sunday I noticed all these families out in the park and couples holding hands in the park. That I haven't seen anything like it for, well, as long as I can remember, really. Football season in Australia has ended. Okay, there's no AFL season in Australia this year, and this is the first time ever that this has happened, that there will be no football season. And a lot of men I know are going, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to spend my weekends? And I was out in the park and noticed a lot of couples actually interacting and spending time with one another. And so this is going to demonstrate through Venus in Gemini. You're going to see couples actually playing together instead of the bloke sitting in front of his football with his beer and his mates. It's going to be a time now where we are actually playing with each other, being with each other, investing in each other through our actions, playfulness, and through our words as well, because Gemini is a very intellectual sign, and it's very much about communication and speaking and words, conversations. So we're going to see those sorts of things become stronger in our love lives now. Hooray! More conversations with lovers, more playfulness in love. This is also a time when we're not going to want to feel bogged down in relationship. We're going to want to make it joyful. Gemini is a light, breezy, happy energy. And so when the planet of love is in that sign, we don't want heavy, drama-filled, pressurized kind of relationships that are too intense, that are over the top, that are moody, that are none of that. What we want is to bring lightness and breeziness and joy into our love dynamics, our love relationships. And so, watch out for that at this time. If you find things getting really heavy, try and lighten the mood, try and make things a bit more playful. Try and, bedroom games or, just intellectual, interesting conversation with a partner. Watch some documentaries together with your lover, or do stuff that redirects the intense, drama-filled energy into other realms right now. Venus in Gemini also indicates that a need for diversity. Gemini doesn't sort of tend to stay in the one spot very long. It's very movable. It's a mutable sign, and it's about short travels. So the energy of Gemini is to flick from one thing to another. And a lot of strong Gemini people will have this wonderful capacity to know a lot about everything, but jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. Nothing in, unless there's other indicators in their chart, nothing in super deep depth, but lots of knowledge of general ideas and concepts and so forth. So when we've got Venus here, we want diversity in love. We want changeability in love. We don't want to get stuck and fixed. So keep it changed up. Take turns to create some sort of romance in the bedroom at night. Take turns to, come up with a different kind of date. I mean, this is a time of great creativity when we're all in lockdown and self-isolation. How can you make your love life sort of sparkle and have this breezy light quality of Gemini when you're in the confines of your own home or your own community? Well, there are many ways to do this, and the world is your oyster with regard to the creative capacity you can instill here. Dressing up might be something you might like to do. Cooking for one another might be something you like to do. Playing sort of sexy board games and that sort of thing. Venus in Gemini. Keep it diverse, keep it mixed up, come up with creative ideas, and you'll be beautifully channeling the energy of Venus in Gemini. Not only to do with love though, yes, we want diversity in what we're receiving from our lovers and giving to our lovers right now with Venus in Gemini, but we also want diversity in our pleasures as well, because Venus rules pleasures. It rules enjoyments, things that satisfy our sensual side, our touch, taste, sight, hearing and smell. So how can you bring more variety into that? Well, maybe you could have a few new incense sticks burning that, different scents within your home. Give your home some variety in terms of all the sensual things. Sensualness regarding smell, new incense sticks, or burn some candles that are scented or something like that. Put some essential oils around. Create diversity in scent in your home. Create diversity in what you see. Maybe you've had the same old cushions on your bed for years and you decide, I need a change. So you jump on the sewing machine because you can't go out much now to go buy new ones, but you sew up some brand new cushion covers and boom, a whole new visual energy is present in your home. Keep it diverse, keep it interesting. Your pleasures as well can be what you eat at this time. So maybe you haven't cooked a sponge cake in years since you were a girl learning how to cook, or a young man in the home ec class, and you haven't done any sort of pleasurable, delightful cooking for years. It's all been, your soups and stir fries and so you decide, I'm going to cook for pleasure now. Venus in Gemini. I'm going to create beautiful food that gives me delight, and it's different to what I usually have. So you get out there and you make your sponge with jam and cream, or whatever, you try and mix it up and create variety with the pleasures of life as much as we're able to under lockdown and self-isolation. So that's food, that's clothing, that's the display of your furniture in your home, how you're spending your time. Maybe you need to diversify that. Today I'm going to work in the garden, tomorrow I'm going to play board games with my kids, day after that I might get out my sewing machine and create some beautiful dress or piece of clothing or piece of haberdashery like furnishings. lots of opportunity for new, different variety in the things that give us pleasure. I know people who love sort of nana crafts are just loving this period where they're getting into their stash of crochet and wool and so on, and really enjoying those things. Gemini is also the skills of our hands, so we can find pleasure in the skills of our hands at this time as well. You know, doing some woodworking requires skilled use of your hands, doing sewing, doing any type of crafting. So this is a time when we can find a lot of pleasure out of those things, and I'd encourage you to do so. It's very much the energy of Venus in Gemini. Venus is also where we spend money, and okay, we might be able to go down the street other than to buy food, but we can, if we have money to spend and we want to look to spend our money, you know, in sort of supportive ways at this time, we might be looking at Gemini things, doing a webinar, studying a course with Astrology, or doing one of my webinars that are available on my website, guidingstar-astrology.com. You might want to actually purchase some books. So e-books or actual physical books that can come in the mail. Any type of information is ruled by Gemini, and gathering of information. So, you know, maybe you buy a subscription to Gaia TV and you know, get some information from Gaia TV. Maybe you subscribe to a Patreon page of somebody who really is wise and you consider has a lot of valuable information. So you'll be spending money in areas where you're gathering information and accumulating knowledge and wisdom in those realms. You might also spend money on, like I've just described, craft items. You know, maybe you order, you know, a new set of knitting needles that come through the post or something like that, or you jump on eBay or Amazon and you order some kind of craft project that you want to do and it comes in the mail. You might be spending your money in those realms, and indeed it's a time for doing so with Venus in the sign of Gemini. But as I said, do keep your eyes out for my video all about Venus going retrograde in the sign of Gemini. There's so much more information there about what to expect in the coming weeks, especially once Venus moves into its shadow period. I'll talk more about that in future videos as well. But on the 3rd of April, we're going to have a conjunction of Mercury and Neptune. Now, this is happening late in the day on the 3rd of April, depending on where you are in the world. But you will notice it most of all on the 4th of April. So basically, same day that Venus goes into Gemini. We're really going to feel the conjunction of Mercury and Neptune. Now, we need to be careful of this conjunction, and you know, ordinarily we might not see too much coming out of a Neptune and Mercury conjunction, which happens yearly, happens annually, and because it happens on a regular basis every year, we may not even notice its effects. But this year it is going to be interesting. We've already seen some pretty influential outcomes of Mercury and Neptune sort of doing a song and dance. Refer to my video from 2 weeks ago if you want to know more about that, my video on hysteria and immunity. Now, I'll just point out also that in that video I do go into how you can raise your immunity levels for each individual sign. So don't think it's just a general dialogue. That video has special information for you individually. If you didn't see it 2 weeks ago, my hysteria and immunity video, do check it out and get some ideas for how to increase your own immunity levels. But Mercury rules the lungs and Neptune rules the flu. And so we may see from sort of the 3rd, 4th of April, Neptune is also hysteria. We may see more hysteria coming out about this virus that is causing all this economic upheaval right now and fear, vibration on planet Earth. We want to lift our vibration to the higher manifestation of Neptune conjunct Mercury, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But just know that around this time when these two make a conjunction, we might start to feel and notice that there is more hysteria. We might notice that the maybe a rise in people who actually have this virus. Mercury is the lungs, Neptune is the flu and influenza. We can notice that might actually take a little bit of a rise at this time. Not meaning to scare anybody. It's certainly, if you're practicing all the things that they're recommending, you know, doing your self-isolation and good hygiene and so forth, if you're doing all those things, then there's nothing to be afraid of. What is to be will be, but I'm not going to go into all of that. I've had enough feedback regarding those kinds of topics. And I think there's no need to go further into that at this stage. But I would encourage you, with this on the horizon, this conjunction of Mercury and Neptune, I'd encourage you to continue to be cautious, continue to be careful, but as I've said in my previous few videos, continue to look for ways to raise your vibration out of the lowest level of fear and hysteria. And let's look to the higher levels of Neptune and Mercury. Well, what are these? Well, it's thinking about, Mercury is to think about Neptunian things. And what are Neptunian things? Well, fantasy. Read a good fantasy novel. Watch a good fantasy movie. Dreams. Try and write down your dreams and nut out what do you think that the universe is trying to tell you through your dreams. Do some daydreaming. Anything to do with the mind, and which is Mercury, and Neptune, which is our fantasies, our dreams, our visions. Go there. Grab. One of my favorite things to do is grab a nice cup of ginger tea, sit on my couch, curl up, and just look out at the clouds passing by and the sky, and daydream about what could be in the world. Use your imagination now for powerful things, not for negativity. That's the lower vibration of this energy. The higher vibration of this energy is to use your imagination for positivity, for empowerment, for lifting the planet and creating our world, creating the universe, well, the world on earth that we long to see. Use your imagination to go there. Or I listened to a wonderful lecture this morning all about how our reality always comes out of our imagination, the collective imagination. And if we think fearful thoughts, then we create a fearful reality. If we think, visionary thoughts, utopian thoughts, idealistic thoughts, they're all Neptunian things, then we can create a visionary, idealistic, utopian future if we wish. Neptune rules our ideals and creativity and spirituality, so think about those things. Mercury also is connected to the energy of Gemini, the skills of our hands. And so use your mind to think about how you can use your hands to do a more creative processes. Neptune is creativity. Maybe you could, another thing I like to do is write down I've got a dream book where I write down all my thoughts and dreams and goals and ambitions. And sometimes I'll draw little pictures of the dresses that I want to make. And I will use my mind and my imagination to connect to the skills of the hands that I like to employ, which is sewing and creating clothing. You might have other things that you might like to use your imagination and your mind relating to the skills of your hands. Maybe you like to knit, maybe you like to cook, maybe you like to do woodwork, maybe you like to do metalwork, whatever it is, gardening, I don't care. Whatever skills of the hands you have, direct your attention mentally there during this time, because the skills of the hands are Mercury. Creativity is seen by Neptune, especially divinely inspired creativity. Using the imagination, direct your attention, your mental energy there, and you'll be channeling the higher level of this energy. Same goes for spirituality. Now, the highest vibration of Neptunian spirituality is meditation, is yoga, is increased psychic perception. So put your mind to those things. Listen to some online talks about increasing your psychic capacity. Do some meditations. Do some yoga practices at this time. Perfect higher vibrational energy. Watch out for omens. That's another energy of spirituality. Watch out for omens. Does a particular bird fly into your window while you're sitting there drinking your ginger tea? If that happens, look it up. There's plenty of information online about animal omens, animal totems. Maybe there's a message from spirit coming to you. What bird was it that flew in? What lizard crawled past you in the garden? Whatever it happens to be, there are omens around us all the time if we know how and where to look for them. So seek out information in that regard. Now, the lowest vibration of this energy, apart from fear and hysteria around issues of pneumonia in the lungs, The other lower vibrating energies that we can succumb to at this time are things like scandals, gossips. Neptune is gossip and scandal. Mercury is to talk and to speak or write or communicate. So you might write some sort of negative, scandalous kind of information on a blog or a Facebook post or something like that. That's the lower vibration of this energy. Watch out for these sorts of false Neptune rules false information, Mercury, circulating out there now. False information about the virus, false information about what the government is doing. Make sure whenever you read something online during this time, you go and double check. Is this truth? Is this real? Is this substantiated? Make sure you do your homework now, because scandals, gossip, falsehoods are out there. Lies are going to be rife at this time too. It is the lower vibrating energy. Rumors, confused thinking, deceitful words are all Neptune Mercury conjunction lower energies. So instead, what we can do now in the lead up to this time is make an intention that we are going to speak with kindness. We're going to speak with compassion, Neptune energies that are of a higher order, higher level, and speak with unconditional love towards our fellow man, towards even our political leaders, even against, even about people that, are obviously functioning in a low vibratory level. We're going to speak kindness. We're going to speak love. We're going to speak compassion, even about those people. We're not going to drag humanity down into greater depths of fear and hysteria. We're going to speak with kindness and love. With truth, yes, but with kindness and grace and compassion, the higher manifestation of Neptune Mercury conjunction. Please go there, people, at this time. The world really, really needs it. Now, the next energy I wanted to explore is happening on April the 7th, and this is when we're going to see a full moon in the sign of Libra. I'm excited about this. Here is the moon up here in the sign of Libra, and opposite the sun in the sign of Aries. So on the 7th, we will have had 2 weeks since we had the new moon occurring in the sign of Aries, which I talked about for each sign in my last week's Astro Weather Report. Then this coming week on the 7th, we're going to have the full moon in the sign of Libra, and that's something to look forward to. I'm so glad I'm going to be on my vision quest at this time. What does it mean? Well, Libra, the sign, is all about balance and harmony, compassion, fairness, equality, charm, beauty, ease, grace, peace, all these beautiful, sophisticated qualities, sophisticated thinking, and refined expression are the elements of the sign of Libra. The display of the sign of Libra in our lives. So when we have a full moon in the sign of Libra, then the focus is going to be on striking a balance with these things. How can you bring more compassion into your experience? How can you bring more fairness and equality into your current present experience? How can you bring more balance? How can you bring more harmony, grace, ease, refinement into your life? So that is the energy of the full moon in Libra. But also, when we have a full moon, we're looking at a polarity. As you can see, sun and moon are opposite one another. So we're kind of trying to integrate 2 opposing energies. This is a very strong, obvious opposing energy. Aries to Libra. Aries is about the self, our survival, our ability to thrive, our ability to go forward and conquer the earth. And it's quite a self-oriented sign, Aries, whereas Libra is all about other people. How am I being fair? How am I being just? How is this balancing into a win-win situation for both of us? That's the way Libra strong people think. They think about others. They think about helping others. They think about how can we make this a better world for both, you and I. There's a real focus towards other people. The shadow side, or a Libra person gone sour, is when they are denying themselves and giving all their energy to others, which is not healthy. So right now we're trying to strike, with this full moon in Libra, we're trying to strike a balance between our own personal interest, Aries, and the interests of others and society at large, Libra. So we want to get a balance in this area. Now also, we are going to see a square being made from this full moon to Pluto and Jupiter. Boom, down to here. Obviously, then Pluto and Jupiter are squaring, oopsies, the sun, and we've got these two making an opposition. What that is called a T-square, that energy of a T-square playing out. Now, we can also, because of this square, we can expect from this full moon some more upheavals perhaps in the realm of the global financial situation, simply because Pluto-Jupiter conjunctions always come at a time when there's a financial reset of the markets, a financial reset of wealth and wealth distribution in society. It happens every 13 years. So this time when this full moon occurs and it's squaring this conjunction, we can expect that the full moon will bring some sort of more upheaval or more directioning towards what these guys represent. And it's likely to come with a bit of friction and a bit of a challenge. So do be prepared that that might happen in the world right now. Also at this time, we've got the moon making an inconjunct aspect to Mercury, Neptune. Now, an inconjunct aspect, I'm not going to go into a great deal about what it actually is, but that's it there. You can see that here is the moon and there's kind of this odd angle being created to Neptune, Mercury. This is called an inconjunct. What does it mean? What does it mean? What's it going to bring us out of this full moon period? Well, we might find when the moon is at an inconjunct angle to another planet, what it brings is emotional repression or else inappropriate emotional expression. So it's either internalized strongly, the energy of the moon, which rules emotions, is internalized and we repress our emotions, or goes to the other extreme when we're having this inconjunct. And of course, what does Mercury in the lowest levels with Neptune represent? This hysteria around the flu. And so we might see some rather inappropriate emotional expression out there in the world, online, in society, in our supermarkets, wherever. We might see some inappropriate emotional expression based around what these two are representing. So this is on the collective level. It might also happen for you at a personal level that there's either some emotional repression or some strong emotional expression that comes out regarding, it could, in a positive sense, it could come out regarding, your feelings of compassion. You might be expressing strong emotions regarding compassion and compassionate words, compassionate actions towards others. Neptune, Mercury is to think compassionately at the highest level, and you might have strong emotional expression around that. So it need not be negative. We need to aim for the highest manifestation of things, but I'm illustrating for you the two polarities of how it could play out, and it could fall anywhere in between. Basically, emotional expression is going to be running high with this full moon, and it's going to be connected to everything I just described that's happening with Mercury and Neptune conjunction. So do make sure you watch that little bit of this intro. So we've got the inconjunct with the emotional expression of the moon being activated, and obviously around large-scale issues, but also occurring in our personal life as well. We've got, with an inconjunct to the moon, there can be expectations of adherence and loyalty that are coming to us from our government leaders and authorities, governmental figures. So the moon correlates to protectionism and safety and security, and we might find that our government officials and so forth, you just have this expectation of adherence and loyalty no matter what they dish out to us. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much further into that, but we might see that happening more strongly with this full moon. The inconjunct to Neptune and Mercury here by the moon can indicate no boundaries regarding colds. Neptune is no boundaries. The moon rules colds. So you might find you are more susceptible to colds at this time. It goes without saying, watch your hygiene. self-isolate, continue to do so, and raise your immunity at this time. Check out my hysteria and immunity video to work to, get some more ideas for how you can lift your immunity levels. Neptune represents boundary issues. So whenever there's an inconjunct to Neptune, in this case, as I've just pointed out, it's between the moon and Neptune. Whenever there's an inconjunct to Neptune, we can have boundary issues, Neptune, with older women. The moon rules older women, maternal women. So expect that there might be boundary issues with older women. They might be asserting themselves in some way in your life that you don't like, and there's issues regarding the boundaries that you have in place with them. Maybe, maybe you have a sick mother, and she's got a bit of a runny nose and a cold, but she insists on coming around and seeing your children, and you're like, now hang on a minute. I want a boundary in place here because I don't want my children getting sick, and then I get sick, and then we're more susceptible to all the viruses and so forth out there that are running around right now. Might have to put some serious boundaries in place between grandma and children. It's not pleasant, it's not easy, but there might be reasons for that. That's just one example. There are many other ways that boundary issues with women, with older women, with maternal women might pop up in your life with this inconjunct during the full moon. So if you are a mother, you also might find, because the moon rules motherhood, you might find that you are feeling inclined to do more than your fair share. That's what an inconjunct aspect can bring out, where we feel we have to give more. We have to be over the top almost with our expression of the planet. And in this case, it's the moon. We might be inclined to do more than our share, take on too many burdens, carry too many responsibilities right now. I know what it's like as a single mum to do this. Your children get sick, you're as crook as a dog as well, and you've got to soldier on. Now, it doesn't matter how sick you get, you've got, in my case, 3 little children who need to be looked after, no matter how I'm feeling. So we might see that mother energy taking on too many responsibilities, carrying too many burdens at this time. So if you're a mum or a grandmother or so forth, do be careful at this time and guard and protect your health and your well-being. And by that I mean, your balance in the sign of Libra. Protect your balance. Protect that win-win situation between the needs of others and your own needs. Balance that, harmonize that. Don't give too much. And you'll be called to account on this in the next week or so. The universe will make it very clear to you in what areas you are having to take on too much, more than your fair share. You might feel that you can never do enough, that no one's ever happy with what you give. That can be a feeling that is generated by this full moon. Like I said, we need to make a compromise between the needs of others and our own needs, but we also need to compromise between our emotional life, the moon, and our spiritual life, Neptune. Make a compromise there as well. You can't be the spiritual guru for everyone in your family all the time. Sometimes you need to take stock of your own emotional health and address that. So just an illustration. There might be other ways that plays out for you. Do share if you've got an illustration that might fit that particular alignment. But people have been going through big psychological upheavals since the Aries new moon 2 weeks ago, or early last week. There's this T-square playing out, and that's been causing tension. Here we've had a square from Pluto and Jupiter to where the Aries new moon took place, and that is creating a tension that's causing us to go deep psychologically. Pluto is psychological depth, and Jupiter is expanding that by the nth degree. And so this will culminate, and it's with the full moon. And either it's going to resolve these psychological introspective tendencies, and we will be able to come out in a more enlightened manner regarding wherever these energies are falling for us personally in our chart and the houses that they fall in. But our psychological introspective period will either culminate and resolve, or it will reach its crisis point, depending on how we've worked with these energies since the new moon in Aries. So where's your focus been since the new moon in Aries? Where have you been trying to lift your vibration? My video last week talked about where we're directing our vibrational energy to sort of lift our spirits, lift our energy, lift our psyche. So if you haven't been working on this, I'd encourage you in the lead up to the full moon, get stuck into it now. Take time to go within. Do some soul searching, do some journaling, take walks in nature and ponder and reflect. Don't take a walk in nature with your headphones plugged in and you're just not in the space of your mind. Take time to go deep. Take time to go within. Do the self-introspection. Do the spiritual analysis of your life. Do a vision quest like what I'm doing if you get the chance and your soul and mind and body are prepared for a vision quest. Get stuck into it. You can do it in the space of your own home. Take an evening out to meditate, have a soothing bath, listen to meditations online, and then spend some time journaling about what comes up in you, writing. Mercury, Neptune is to write about spiritual things. Use that energy at this time. If we do that, if we do the introspective work, looking at where our challenges have been, where our friction has been, where the hardships have been over the last 2 weeks, if we do that and shine a light on those things, we can resolve with the full moon everything that's been bubbling up in us since the new moon in Aries. So now I want to run through all signs. We're looking at the full moon for all signs. I want to take a look at where are you taking on too much right now? Where are you doing too much right now? And where might you be inappropriately expressing emotion over the next coming weeks, so you'll have an awareness and a knowledge, okay, that's where I need to balance, that's where I need to harmonize my energies. So let's take a look. We'll start with Aries. Okay, here is the full moon in your sign. So for Aries rising people, you might find that you are taking on too much, doing too much in the realm of relationships and committed partnerships, any contractual agreements. You might have taken on too much of a burden, and maybe that's an area you might need to let go of now and to release. The full moon energy is highlighting your area of contracts. Maybe it's also highlighting, legal cases as well, as seen by the 7th house. Maybe you've taken on too much of a fight in terms of legal cases and legal action, and maybe you need to review that now. Maybe you're doing too much for a partner, for a business partner, or for your clients, or maybe you're doing too much for your marriage partner and they're not pulling their weight. That can be illuminated now. You might also find, heads up, that this is the realm of life where you might be inappropriately expressing, or conversely, the polarity to that, repressing your emotions in the next week. So do be careful. You might have explosive interactions with your spouse or with your business partner or with your advertising agency or something, and there could be some sort of just over the top emotional expression and emotionalism that comes out in those realms this week. Or you might find that you are stuffing down emotional frustration and emotional feelings concerning those people this week. That's not a real winning situation for you. It's in those realms that you're going to need to balance your emotions. Libra is balance. You'll need to focus on balancing your emotions with partnerships, with clients, with relational partnerships and business partnerships as well. So that is the full moon in Aries specifically. For Aries people, there was more information in the intro to this video, and I do encourage you to watch it because it's very personal information that applies to you that you can work with in the coming week. For those of us who have either Taurus rising or Taurus sun or moon, you can look at all three. But this is putting for us the Libra full moon falling on the 12th house, 6th house axis. And wherever the moon is where we can find at this time we're taking on too much. We're doing too much. We're carrying too much of a load. And you need to be careful if you're Taurus rising of carrying too much of a load, doing too much, giving too much in realms of your everyday work and routine, fixing other people's problems. You might find at this time, Taurus people, that you seem to be, your very calm energy is drawing in people who are just sort of sucking vampire-like your energy out of you. And with sixth house energy, your daily routine, you might be carrying the full load. You're doing all the cooking, all the washing, all the cleaning. Everyone else is just sitting around watching Netflix and you're just doing it all. Well, hey, time to create balance there. Libra, win-win situations for everyone. Balance your needs and the needs of others. Get everybody else on board. Don't be carrying the load all on your own. This is the realm of life where we're doing too much. Maybe it's also in the workplace. You've had to start working from home because you've gone into lockdown or self-isolation and you're just working so hard like you've never have before, and it's not being appreciated, or other people aren't giving as much as you're giving because they've gone into isolation and lockdown as well. But hey, they're not doing much work from home because their attention is elsewhere at home, and maybe you're carrying the full brunt of things. Well, you need to step up and reorganize that. Make sure that it's a balanced, harmonious Libran situation that you find yourself in, not one where you're carrying too much, doing too much. This is also a realm where you need to watch your emotional expression this week, as I described in the intro, which I encourage you all to listen to because it's very pertinent for everybody. If you want more information about what's going on in your life this week, do check out my intro. It goes into great detail about what's happening for us all. But the inappropriate expression of emotion I described in the intro, and this can be happening with our enemies, with people who want to backstab us and gossip about us and create scandals and slander about us. There can be inappropriate reactions to those kinds of things right now. The enemies that we have personally in our life are seen from the sixth house. You might also have inappropriate reactions about the daily work routine you have, or inappropriate reactions to a health situation. The moon in this situation I described in the intro is being triggered with its inappropriate display of emotion right now. So that can come out regarding anything to do with the sixth house. You might also tend to repress. That's also not healthy. The polarity of this is to repress your emotions. Maybe you're doing all the work from home for your company and everyone else is just sort of, hanging at home and doing some cooking and having a good time with their kids and playing and what have you. And you're doing all the work from home and it's not fair and it's not right, and you might repress this emotional, or you're the mum or a dad doing all the housework and doing all the cooking and teaching the kids while they're home under lockdown, and it's just too much, not balanced, not harmonious, and you're repressing this emotional feeling you have about the injustice and the unfairness of you doing all this work. That can also happen as well. Can either overexpress or be subversed within us or squashed down within us. Do be careful if that's what you're experiencing, and look to harmonize that. Look to balance and rectify those situations, fix those situations of inharmony and imbalance, so that you are in a better position going forward from this full moon. Okay, Gemini rising people. Well, guys, this energy for you is falling on the full moon energy on the 5th house, 11th house axis for any Gemini rising people. And so this is where we might be taking on too much, carrying too much of a load right now, doing too much, and it might be, fatiguing us or frustrating us or causing a buildup of cranky energy in our emotional body. So mostly this is being felt in 5th house realms. Maybe you're carrying too much of a load with your children. 5th house is children, or with your lovers. Now, the 5th house is a lovely house. It's about playfulness and fun and enjoyment and being out and socializing. Well, obviously that's subdued right now. You can't be out socializing, 5th house energy, but you can find that you're carrying extra burdens of responsibility with your children right now. And certainly if your children are on school holidays or they're home because of school closures and what have you, that you're having to educate your children, that's an extra burden that you may be carrying at this time. Similarly, extra burdens, extra responsibilities, extra duties regarding lovers. Maybe, your lover's sick and you have to take care of them, or maybe they, for some reason, are not carrying their share of the weight of this in this crisis time. They're not contributing. They're not lifting their game. And so this can create an energy of you taking on too much with these things, doing too much. Maybe you're trying to entertain the kids, and why isn't your lover helping, entertain the kids or whatever. It's in this area that you need to create balance and harmony. Just know that this full moon is going to illuminate where things are out of whack regarding your children and the energy and time and effort that you give to your children. Where are you giving too much? Doing too much. So the full moon in the Libra will illuminate where things are out of whack and call you to rebalance, reharmonize between your needs and the needs of others. This is also an area where you might be expressing inappropriate emotion or polarically repressing your emotions as well. As I said in the intro to this video, which I hope everybody watched, because there's something in that for everyone. There's greater depth, that greater richness, greater understanding available to you by watching the intro. It is in this realm, the 5th house realm, where you're going to be feeling wanting to express frustration more, and you might come out with sort of inappropriate expressions of emotional frustration regarding your kids or towards your lover. You might fire up towards your lover in some way that's just not appropriate. So be careful of that. And or we can repress. Maybe our lover's been ticking us off for months. We've just had a gutful, and we keep stuffing down the feelings instead of addressing them with balance, with harmony, with a win-win type approach, which is very Libran. So you might be being called now to address the stuffed down emotions, or called now to address your emotional overreactivity regarding lovers, regarding children at this time. So for Cancer rising people, this full moon is happening to fall on your 4th house, 10th house axis. So it's in this realm, Cancer rising people, that you might be finding you're taking on too much and have been taking on too much for the last 2 weeks. Doing too much, carrying too much responsibility, carrying too much burden. And of course, 4th house is with family. Maybe, your parents have not been well, and they're not coping with the isolation, and you've been having to sort of check in on them, and that's a good thing, good for you. But maybe you've got siblings around who could be doing a bit as well, and they're not, and you're carrying all the burden. It's where we need to rebalance things. The illumination of the full moon in the 4th house is causing you to double check. Where are you carrying too much? Where are your responsibilities out of balance, out of harmony with regard to family, or with regard to your home and the care and maintenance of your home, the stability of your domestic life? You're carrying too much of a burden in that realm, and it's a time to review it and rebalance it. Where with regard to property ownership, properties that you have, properties that you own, where do things need to get back into harmony, back into balance for you? You're being called to look at that with this full moon. Now, hopefully everybody checked out my intro, which went into all the energies that are playing out with this full moon, as well as some of the other configurations that are happening in the sky right now. And I've made it very personal so that you will get something out of the intro, and you'll see how it applies to you at a greater, richer, deeper level. So I'd love it if people could watch the intros to my videos, because there's so much information there that's resource rich for you. In that, I kind of talked about why we're experiencing at this time with this full moon either an inappropriate expression of emotion or repression of emotion. And so this for you is falling in the 4th house, where you might be inappropriately expressing frustration or angst or fear with family, to family members, or in your home. And so you might sort of burst out with a tirade to your family, and everyone's like, whoa, what came over her? Or equally, we could be repressing our emotions too much to our own detriment at this time as well. And the full moon is going to illuminate that, and we will receive illumination through our family members, through looking, detaching and looking at our home life, and how are we letting ourselves down here. And I keep repressing my frustration over having to always do the laundry, and no one picks up their dirty clothes, and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Domestic environment is where you're going to see how you are repressing your lunar emotions, or over expressing them in more negative ways. So at this time of the full moon, that's going to be illuminated for you. The secret is to balance, to harmonize, and bring things back into unity and equality in the sign of Libra. So don't be afraid to gently speak up at this time and say, hey, look, I'm carrying too much of a load with my parents here. Guys, can you get on board? Instead of losing your shit with them, ask your siblings to back you up. If it's with other family members, your domestic home environment, if you're carrying too much of a load, now's the time to ask for help and try and balance the situation between your needs, Libra, and your needs, Aries, and the needs of others, sign of Libra. All right, if we are Leo rising, beautiful Leo, or sun or moon, I'm Leo sun, so this applies to me, and so I can take this on board as well. But the full moon is falling on our 3rd house, 9th house axis. And this is where we're going to be taking on too much, or we may have been taking on too much over the past few weeks or even few months, doing too much, carrying too many responsibilities. So this could be with our siblings. It could be with our neighbors, that we're carrying the weight of responsibility for our neighbors right now. They're all off, running around down the street, not self-isolating, and we're doing the responsible right thing. And we get frustrated by that. That can be highlighted for us at this time. Full moon in Libra for Leo rising people might mean that you're taking on too much responsibility, doing too much work with regard to what you're learning about. Maybe you've been studying some new course or something, or undertaking some sort of, webinar or something like that that's online during this lockdown period, and you've just taken on too much, and you realize, oh my God, I've got sort of 4 courses on the go. I've got a course in hypnotism, I'm doing food and nutrition, and I've studied an astrology webinar. Oh my God, it's just too much. I've overwhelmed myself. And you can realize, oh my God, I'm doing too much in terms of studying and extra learning at this time. What you need to do, what the full moon will illuminate to you, is the need to balance these areas of your life. Your relationship with siblings, your relationships with neighbors, your relationship with, your learning potential. And bring things back into harmony, bring things back into balance and equilibrium. Full moon in the 3rd house, Libra. Now, if you watched the intro to this video, there was so much richness that I shared about how these astrological configurations are playing out for you and what you will experience, what the collective will experience. So do watch the intro. It's very, very important and helpful, especially as it gives a lot more understanding to what I'm sharing about for you individually. In that, I talked about what is causing the moon to either overexpress or to repress emotionally in our lives. And it's in this realm for Leo people, the 3rd house, where we might be expressing inappropriately, going over the top with our emotionalism or repressing our emotionalism. So you might lose your shit with your neighbors and then go inside afterwards, after you've given them a good yelling, tell your kids to be quiet and they make too much noise and they're keeping me up all night, and you lose your shit with your neighbors. And you come inside your house afterwards and go, oh my God, that was a total overreaction. I'm so embarrassed. Emotionalism was running high right now. And for you guys, it's falling in the 3rd house. Neighbors, siblings, also with learning new things, studying new, practical courses, or doing a webinar or something like that. So you might be inappropriately expressing your emotion there, or repressing to your detriment, to your stress levels, to your anxiety levels, repressing your frustration that the neighbor's kids just never shut up and it's 2 a.m. and they're playing their music really loudly and I've had a gutful, and you're repressing it. What the full moon in Libra, which is all about balance and harmony and equality, is all about is finding win-win situations for everyone, approaching things with diplomacy. And so that is what you're being called to do in this coming week with your overly charged emotionalism or emotional repression, is to find a win-win solution, a way that you can balance this and harmonize this situation so that you win, which is seen by the opposite sign, Aries, and that others win, Libra, other people. So this is where the energy is being directed this week, and it's going to be an energy of tension, and you can actually focus and integrate that in a healthy way if you've got the knowledge, which is hopefully what I'm giving you right now. All right, Virgo people, this energy of the full moon is falling for you in your second house. See, there's the first house, Virgo. Second house is Libra. So the full moon is falling in your second house and eighth house axis. This is where we're taking on too much. The full moon in this instance, and I explained why in my intro. I do hope you checked out my intro because it gives enlightenment to all the things I'm talking about here now for you specifically. It details the effect on the collective as well as the effect of the energies this week on you personally. So please do watch the intro. But this is where you're taking on too much financial responsibility, too much financial duty that might be overwhelming you right now, Virgo people. Financial pressures may be really mounting for you under the energy of this full moon. And you might need to review and redirect how you're spending money. You might need to tighten your budget. You might need to illuminate. The full moon is to shine a light on, illuminate where things are not working well for you financially and make some changes that create a greater benefit for you. Maybe you're giving too much money. Look, maybe you've lost your job, but you've always supported somebody or some charity work or a brother or a sister or somebody, and you've always giving your money to somebody. Maybe now it's a time to review. Well, you know what? I can't keep supporting that employee or that sibling or relative or something. I can't keep doing that when I have no money for myself. And the full moon in Libra is causing you to evaluate, what you're giving out and what you're receiving and where changes need to be made in order for you to live harmoniously right now, especially under all these pressures. So for Virgo rising people, evaluate where are you financially out of balance, out of kilter, what needs to be reharmonized, where are you doing too much, where are you taking on too many financial duties that now need to be resolved and released. Now, it's also, if you checked out my intro, you'll know that the moon is either expressing over-the-top emotionalism this week or repressed emotions, a polarity of either or. And so it's in this realm for you that you might be seeing this display. Maybe you are, you're carrying all these financial burdens for other people right now, paying off other people's debts or something, and it's not fair and it's not right and it's not just, and you just lose your shit with whoever they are. How dare you expect that I'm going to have to pay all your bills and all your debts? And, you absolutely go off your tree over emotional responses to how money is being spent and the burdens and the duties of the second house. You might find also that you could repress, maybe you've been paying, your daughter's bills or somebody's bills and expenses, or allowing them to live in your home and use all your resources for living or something, and that's a burden on you. And you might have been repressing your frustration at that for a long time now. And now the full moon in Libra is causing you to have to address it. Because what the full moon in Libra wants to integrate is what we are giving to others, Libra, and what we need to survive and thrive, Aries. So there is a real integration needed between Aries and Libra at this time. And what you want to do is create a diplomatic win-win situation, not to fly off the handle and lose your shit, not to repress and cause stress and anxiety in your own life. Very harmoniously, it's a time for shining a light on these things and working things out so that you receive what you need and they receive what they need, which could well be that they need to take more responsibility for their life. It could well be that they need to, financially contribute. Just an example, it might not have anything to do with people. Maybe you need to financially make sure that you're in balance regarding your expenditure, where you're spending your money right now. Maybe you need to cut back on that extra coffee that you have, spending $20 worth on coffees every week, and maybe that needs to be balanced now with incoming versus outgoing. And so it could be a very personal matter that you're looking at, but you got to look at where you're doing too much, taking on too much, spending too much right now, and make the necessary adjustments in order to avoid losing your shit, in order to avoid heading into repressed anxiety that could also manifest. So the full moon is calling you guys to look at financial matters in particular fine detail this week. All right, beautiful Libra people. That's Libra, rising, sun or moon. You can look at any, doesn't really matter. Certainly the rising sign is the most influential. But here is, and this, I'm a Libra moon, so this applies to me. This is where we might be taking on too much, carrying too many burdens, carrying too many duties. And of course, this is the house of survival. Before we move out into the world, we have to actually remain alive. So the first house is survival, being alive, our physical body, our physical health, and our ability to be present in the earthly life. So here, you might be carrying too many responsibilities with regards to your bodily health, with regards to how you're surviving and thriving in the world. Maybe you've got a massive load on your shoulders as a Libra person, where you're having to maybe take care of a lot of other people right now, and it's just too much. How are you going to survive and thrive if you are the only one making money and nobody else is contributing? How are you going to survive and thrive if your health is compromised? And you're not well, and everybody's counting on you and depending on you? How are you going to survive and thrive and when you're carrying too many burdens regarding fighting for your place in the world? Maybe you've been striving, maybe you've been pushing, maybe you've been trying to get ahead, and now it's just extra hard for some reason or another because there's more pressures now, or there's more duties now, more responsibilities now, and you cannot seem to get ahead and in the way that you'd hope. So there is a tremendous amount of pressures and responsibilities to thrive, to show up in the world, to be seen, to take care of your body now as a Libra person. You guys need to be very careful above all other signs. And if you watch my intro, you'll know why. Please watch my intro. There is just so much rich information that I provide there to give you a background to why I'm saying the things I'm saying in my little 5-minute snippet on each sign. If you want to know why, if you want to know greater depth about what you're going to experience this week, please watch the intro. But for you guys, it's very, very powerful this week, this full moon in your sign, because not only is it talking about survival and thrival, but if you watch the intro, you'll know that there are some triggers around coronavirus. And of course, with the full moon in the house of your body, you need to be very careful this week. You need to raise your immunity as much as possible. Watch my immunity and hysteria video that I did 2 weeks ago. It will give you some information and ideas for how to raise your immunity levels naturally. Do your good hygiene, do your good social distancing, and get into all those things. Be pretty gung-ho, be pretty vigilant about it this week to keep your immunity at a high level if you're a Libra person, because this full moon may very well trigger more, well, it's going to trigger more hysteria, but it may trigger more susceptibility, less boundaries with these things in your body. So do take care of yourself in that regard. And this is where you guys will need to take on more responsibility, will need to take on more duties. So what is happening is that we're having a full moon in the sign of Libra, your sign, that's illuminating these pressures in your life. Where are you taking on too much? You're going to see it clearly now. The full moon will illuminate where you're taking on too much in terms of surviving and thriving and carrying your burdens and being able to show up and be seen right now. And you're going to see that. And what it's calling us to is to integrate our needs, personal needs, and the needs of others. So you're going to need to sort of work out win-win situations where you're not the only one carrying all the responsibilities and the duties right now, where you're not the only one who's caring for your well-being. You're the only one looking after you, and having to take care of everybody else as well can really suck. You're going to, might need to step up and say, hey, come on, we've all got to take responsibility for ourselves right now. And this means for our individual health and well-being. And we need to, all of us, watch out for each other and respect one another as well. So you're going to be addressing these sorts of issues regarding survival, thrival, bodily health, etc. One other thing for Libra rising people or sun or moon is that this is the realm where we can be inappropriately expressing emotion, or either the polarity to that, repressing our emotions. So you might find this week that you might just lose it over having to carry so many responsibilities for your own survival on the planet, for your own ability to push forward and be seen. It might just send you a little bit loopy, a little bit off the tree, and you might lose your shit. Alternatively, you might be just so frustrated. I'll use myself as an example. Maybe you've been, working hard to give good quality information about astrology to the masses for years and years and years, and you're just so frustrated because now, since lockdown, everybody's an astrologer, everyone's got a YouTube, and it's just like, and so you repress this frustrated emotion. I mean, this isn't really what I'm thinking, but it's an illustration. You repress this frustrated emotion, and it causes tension and anxiety within you. Or you overexpress and you get online, you have a big complaint about how everybody's an astrologer now, and what about those of us who've been doing this for years? I'm not I'm not being that. I don't align with that thought at all. But this is an illustration of, the kind of thinking that you might have. So you can either lose your shit, or you might, repress it and cause yourself more anxiety regarding how you're surviving in the world, how you're thriving in the world, how you're showing up in the world. And again, this full moon in your sign is causing us to have to integrate and reach a diplomatic, fair, just, balanced solution. In that instance, you would need to realize that the more astrologers there are out there, the more interest there is going to be in astrology, and reach a harmonious state of with it all, instead of losing your shit or turning it into anxiety within you. Realizing that your ability to survive and thrive in the world is held in the hand of God, all these sorts of things. Reaching a diplomatic, logical, balanced, harmonious, and intelligent, because Libra is intelligence. You guys are so smart. Intelligent view that is all about win-win for you and for others. When this full moon falls in the first house in these signs. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, moving along. Let's take a look at the sign of Scorpio. Now, I know most Scorpio people tend to watch my intros, so thank you to Scorpio. Also, Virgo people tend to do that as well, because they like the depth, they like the information, they want at the very core, the heart of the information. So thank you to those of you who do watch my intro. There is so much more substance in an intro than what you'll get from this little 5-minute snippet of your sign. But I'm looking at the full moon in Libra this week, which is falling on your 12th house, 6th house axis. So this is where you're going to be taking on too much, doing too much, carrying too many responsibilities and duties right now. And of course, this is in your 12th house, so you might be carrying some pretty heavy responsibilities with regard to social isolation. Obviously, this is the 12th house. The 12th house is all about social isolation, and it's what comes naturally to us if we have a lot of Pisces and Neptune energy and 12th house energy in our chart. But for those of us without, it can be a bit of a challenge to socially isolate. But for you, there's a lot of duties and responsibilities that go along with socially isolating yourself at this time, and that can be heavy, and that can feel like too much. Maybe, for example, you're having to socially isolate with a family that needs to be fed, or with, with relatives that you mightn't usually get along with or something. And here you are in lockdown with them, and it's hard work and it's frustrating work. So social isolation is really the cause of where you are taking on too many duties and responsibilities right now, and doing too much and carrying too much of a load. So what the full moon in the sign of Libra is calling you to do is to reach a balance there, a diplomatic, harmonious equilibrium that you need to work out with regard to this social isolation process that we're all in. So you can find the full moon this month is going to cause a lot of either overly charged emotional expression or emotional repression, which is the polarity to that. And that's where, through being socially isolated, you might just get so frustrated and burst out with like, oh my God, I'm so sick of this, and I'm sick of you being in my way, and I can't get any space and peace and quiet, and there's frustration through the social isolation process that comes out with an over the top emotional explosion around the time of this full moon. Or you might repress that feeling of, I'm so frustrated by this and it's driving me insane, but you keep trying to keep it cool, trying to keep it under wraps, and it ends up becoming anxiety within you, and you're just tense on the inside, and the energy you're giving off is just and really hard to take. What the full moon in Libra is calling us to now is to find that balance, as I said, that equilibrium. Instead of getting frustrated over social isolation and bursting out or repressing, maybe you need to take action to find your happy place, to find your peaceful space, to escape. That's what the 12th house is all about. The Libra wants to find balance and harmony in escaping for you guys. So it might simply mean that you take your iPad and some headphones and you just go and sit in a chair and meditate. Very 12th house. Do some, find a space where you can do some yoga. Find some balance and harmony that way. You might like to do some sort of creative endeavor, 12th house, or some spiritual activity, or watch a movie even, and isolate yourself in a way that is healthy and balancing and harmonious for you and for those around you. Because Libra rules others and Aries rules you. And the purpose of this full moon, where the sun and moon are opposite, is to integrate both these energies of other people and you into a win-win balanced situation. So do what you must at this time to keep the harmony, to keep the balance, by allowing a form of escapism for yourself, creative expression for yourself, or some spiritual practice that you may need at this time. Okay, we've got Sagittarius rising. Oops, bang, bang, bang. For Saggy rising people, and I love you guys, you bring a lot of upbeat joy at this during these difficult days. Thank you also if you've watched my intro, because I go into greater depth, greater knowledge, greater understanding of what is happening on the collective level and the personal level in my intro. So I thank you if you've watched my intro to this. But I'm looking at the full moon, and it's falling for you in the 11th house, 5th house axis. This is where you will be taking on too much at this point in time, where there's a heaviness and a responsibility, and there's duties that feel like a weight to you in some way. Now, it's likely that for Sagittarius rising people, this might be with your friends. Maybe as a Sagittarius rising person, and you're so positive and upbeat, all your fear-mongering friends just ring you constantly at the moment. They're always on the blower, or sending you text messages, or what's going to happen? I'm so afraid. Or have you seen this article about this instance of coronavirus? Or have you seen what this person has to say? And, and it's just overwhelming for you. Your friends, 11th house is friends, where the full moon is falling, are causing overwhelm and are seeing you as a source of alleviating their fears and their pressures. And that's a tremendous responsibility to carry, a heavy burden to carry, to be seen as the one who's got to uplift others in their fear and their terror. So this can be where you're carrying too much of a load. There might be some sort of social groups that have had to disband because of social isolation, social isolation. And you might be having to carry the burden of responsibility with those social groups, that have had stopped meeting, but you're the treasurer and you've still got to work out, well, how are we going to meet the bills in this social group, and we still have to pay the electricity, and yet there could be burdens around social groups and social organizations that you need to address, and that could be feeling very heavy for you right now. You might also be feeling, as a Sagittarius rising person, the burden of your future. Sagittarius is a very visionary, forward-looking energy, and the 11th house is about our dreams and goals, where we are heading, where we want to be, and there might be a burden around that for you that you're experiencing now. How am I going to make my dreams come true now in this changed world that we live in? How am I going to achieve my visions and goals right now? And there might be a lot of heaviness there, a lot of burden there, a lot of weight that you're feeling right now under the energy of this full moon concerning these things. This might also be causing you emotional either frustration that's, bursting out, and you're losing your shit, and you're going off half-cocked about some, I can't achieve my dreams because of XYZ happening in the economy, or my friends keep expecting too much of me right now. I haven't got the energy to give to all of them that keep wanting to talk about coronavirus or whatever, and I've got nothing left to give. I'm burnt out and I'm frustrated, and I'm going to let them have it next time I get someone ring me up. So we've got this overly expressive emotional reaction to things, or this is during the full moon, or we can be repressing things too much where, okay, here's my 10th friend for the day ringing me, and I've got to try and keep buoyant and upbeat, and I'm going to repress my anger and frustration over this because it's not nice to, let it rip. What the full moon is doing right now is causing you to learn to integrate your needs and the needs of others and reach a win-win situation, reach a balanced and harmonious situation with this, because Libra is the sign of others, and Aries, where the sun sits opposite, is the sign of the self. And when we have a full moon occurring, there is a need to integrate both the sun and moon sign energies. So for you, what you need to do at this time is to find a balance with your friendships and say, third person to ring you today, that's it. I'm not answering my phone anymore today. I've given enough to others today, to my friends, in support and what have you. I'm cutting it down. I'm going to spend time with me, with my pets, with my children. I'm going to, go and watch a movie, or I'm going to do some gardening. I'm going to take care of my needs right now instead of losing it or repressing frustration with regard to the needs of my friends at this time of heavy responsibility. Maybe it's about finding a win-win, harmonious, balanced result with regard to the group responsibilities you carry, the organizational responsibilities that you carry. Maybe it's about drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is what I'll do and no more, because I cannot carry this burden at this time. Or maybe it's to do with your visions and goals and dreams, and it's coming to a balanced perspective on your visions and goals and dreams right now, and realizing that whatever is happening may very well be a crisis that's unfolding to allow you an opportunity you may not have ever had before. Yes, your dreams and goals mightn't be going in the direction you envisioned them to. Maybe it's a time for redirectioning and going in the direction that the universe is pushing us all into, this new state of being, this new state of collectivity on the planet Earth right now. Maybe it's about reaching a point of peace and acceptance with what is happening regarding your visions and goals and dreams, and being flexible and about that. So the more we can do these things at this time under the full moon, the more we're going to generate the higher levels of this energy in our life. Now, we're getting towards the end. Thank you for your patience, everybody, and thank you for your patience, Capricorn people, Capricorn rising people. This energy of the full moon is falling on your 10th house, 4th house axis, and this is very important for you guys. This is where you can be carrying too much of the burden, too much of the load, and it can be really weighing you down right now. And this is going to be illuminated for you through the energy of the full moon. If you want to know more about this, more depth, more detail about this, then I encourage you to watch the intro where I go into exactly why this is happening, where it's coming from, as well as the personal implications for us at a collective level, but also like a very personal level. So do check out my intro. It's very helpful, and it gives more light, more illumination to what I'm talking about now for you in your sign. So it's in the 10th house that you can be carrying too much of a load right now, carrying too much responsibility. 10th house is the legacy we're leaving for the world. 10th house is hierarchies, government structures, organizations. 10th house is our career. So this is where you might be feeling heavy, like you're really carrying the bulk of the load, like you're doing more than your share. You might, if you're still going to work, you might look around you and there's a depleted staff levels or something, thinking, oh my God, I've got to carry everybody's job right now. It's driving me insane. If you're working from home, you might feel like you're the one carrying the bulk of the burden, while other people are, off on school holidays or taking leave, or there might be extra work. Let's say you're a teacher or something. There might be extra work right now because you've got to start preparing online lessons for children who are not going to physically go back to school after the school holidays in Australia at the moment. And there's the very real threat, if you want to call it that the children will not physically return to school and will be doing online studies. And now as a teacher, you've got extra burdens in that realm, extra responsibilities to try and figure out the technology to do so and to create lessons that can be done online with a group of children all in their own homes, and extra duties, extra responsibilities regarding career, regarding what you're doing, the legacy that you're leaving in the world. So they're just some illustrations that, this is where you can be doing too much, and this can be causing you frustration right now, irritation right now. And we need to be careful around the time of the full moon, because it's this full moon where we might see our emotional displays absolutely going berserk off the tree, or we might repress our emotional frustrations to the point where it causes us fatigue and anxiety within our nervous system. So for you guys, you need to be aware of where that's coming from, this full moon, and how to work with it. Really, what the full moon asks us to do is integrate two energies. The energy of where the sun sits, in this case in the sign of Aries, and where the moon sits, the sign of Libra. And of course, Aries is a sign that's all about the self-focus. Libra is a sign that's all about others and others' focus. So you might find now that one of the ways to deal with these heavy responsibilities is that you've got to draw a line in the sand and say, I'm calling it. I'm saying enough's enough. This is as much as I can do and no more. And, yes, the needs of others are important, but also my needs, my well-being, my emotional health is important also. And enough's enough. I can't do any more than this. I want to create a win-win. I'm not going to fly off the handle with emotionalism. I'm not going to repress and turn into a big stress ball. I'm instead going to give of myself up to a point, and that's it. So really, we need to be working to balance, to harmonize, to be diplomatic with any situation involving career, legacy that we want to leave the world, and how we are actually showing up and appearing to society. This is the most visible house in the horoscope, so it very much connects to how we are expressing and appearing to society right now. And so there'll be a call to rebalance and harmonize that area of your life under this full moon. Okay, if we are Aquarius rising, well, the full moon is therefore falling in the third house, ninth house axis. So this is where, if we're Aquarius rising, we're going to notice the energy of tension now being directed. It's in the ninth house that you as Aquarius rising people are going to be taking on too much responsibility. And this will be illuminated for you under this energy of the full moon this week. Now, if you haven't listened to my intro, guys, I'd encourage you to do so. There is a greater level of depth and wisdom that's very personal to you and your journey in the intro, and it just gives more richness and fullness to what I share in these little sign by sign breakdowns. But really, the juicy bits are in the intro, so I do encourage you to check that out. But this is where we're going to be taking on too much in the ninth house realm. Maybe we've taken on too much study. Maybe we've started a university course, and since the outbreak of coronavirus and need to socially isolate, it's just getting too much. You're not able to attend classes, and maybe the lecturers haven't yet got to a stage of putting classes online or something. So there's some frustrations there. There's some responsibilities to get in assignments right now that are just doing your head in under all the pressures and stresses that are out there in the world right now as well. That extra pressure of deadlines with, your higher learning and so forth can be looming and feel very heavy. Maybe there are pressures and stresses right now concerning people who are overseas. I'm not saying family or anything like that, but this is a house of other cultures. So there might be others that overseas, or there might be issues with financial arrangements overseas, or just connections that you have with foreign overseas cultures or something that are really causing great burdens in your life, great stresses in your life. Maybe you're resolving some legal matters through overseas means right now. And this full moon in the sign of the ninth house, which has to do with the law, which has to do with seeking the truth of the law, which has to do with other cultures and overseas, could be triggering in you some frustration, some burden, some heaviness right now, where you're just like, when is this going to end? So ninth house is a hard house in this regard, under these influences, to deal with in the full moon that we're talking about here. So there's some areas where you might be feeling burdens, overseas investments, overseas court cases, dealing with other cultures in some way, shape or form. Maybe, you're a supplier and they're no longer taking your supplies. I had an instance, I'm not Aquarius rising, but I had an instance where I couldn't send one of my Astro Wheels to the client that had ordered one because Australia's not posting to Norway at the moment. So there's cultural frustrations and burdens that are happening there. So that's just an example, a very simple example, but it could be displaying as simply as that. Intercultural relations that are heavy bound, dutiful, burdensome, frustrating at the moment under the influence of this full moon. Because of these things, we can be experiencing either over emotional reactions or emotional repression. And if you watch the intro, you'll know why and how this is displaying and how to deal with it best. But we might lose our shit. Let's say I walked into the post office, they wouldn't take my parcel to go to Norway, and I absolutely lose it with the postal worker, quite inappropriately. And I'm like, oh my God, where does that come from? The full moon in Libra at this time is causing emotional reactivity. Again, the intro explains why. Or I could have gone into the post office and had difficulties with these cross-cultural interactions and ended up repressing my anger and rage and frustration at the situation at the moment, and that caused me anxiety and to sort of double up into the fetal position and go a bit, rocking there in the post office of, oh my God, what's the world coming to? Silly illustrations, but either, polarity of overexpression of emotions and over repression of emotions. Really what the full moon in Libra is calling us to do is to balance and harmonize these things, to find win-win situations, win-win circumstances for others, which is the sign of Libra, rules others, and for ourselves, which is Aries, where the sun sits. So it's a full moon is an integration of two polaric energies. In this case, it's the self and others. How can you harmonize and balance yourself in this situation? Maybe it's drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is as much as I'm willing to carry, as much as I'm willing to give, and then no more. You say enough's enough. Or maybe it's simply coming to an inner understanding of, okay, this is just the way it is with the postal service. We're going to have to wait. I'll let my client know that as soon as I can, I'll send the parcel, and I will send a parcel to you as soon as I can. So it's maybe just recognizing that there needs to be a mutual space, a diplomatic look at what is going on here. Maybe there needs to be patience. Maybe there needs to be, because Libra is quite a patient sign, a more refined approach to what you're dealing with, instead of losing it and going all angry at Aries on things. So really what we're being called to do now is to deal with, in this case, cultural interactions, difficulties with higher learning right now, pressures with higher learning, difficulties with the law. In these things, we need to create greater balance, greater harmony in our life, and come at things with the idea that knowledge is power. When we know, okay, full moon happening, I'm a bit out of sorts with XYZ right now, I know that's where it's coming from. I'm just going to find my zen. I'm going to find my balance. I'll go and have a bath, or I'll read a book, or I'll do whatever puts me back into a state of and just know that the energy will pass. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing for the sign of Aquarius and what they are currently dealing with. Be aware that this might pop up. Finally, for Pisces, and haven't you guys been getting, all of us Pisces people, been getting a bit of action with the Neptune and Mercury deal this month? But this is the realm where the full moon is falling, which is our 8th house, 2nd house realm, where we might be starting to feel a bit too much, too burdened, too weighty, too heavy. And for Pisces people, this full moon is falling in our 8th house of Libra. So I do want to warn Pisces people, 8th house is psychic attacks, spiritual attacks. 8th house has to do with occult energies, and that's anything that's hidden or secret, things that aren't mainstream. So it's in these realms that we can be feeling heavy, carrying burdens, carrying a greater weight, doing more than our share. So, for example, we might be, just say you're like me, I'm Pisces rising, and you're putting out video after video after video to support people and provide information about this time, and you're feeling exhausted and run down and like, I just can't keep doing this. I'm at, the limit. I've done more than my fair share of sharing occult topics online, and now I'm burnt out. You might be feeling that way with the rise of the full moon in the 8th house. As I said in the intro, and I'd encourage you to watch my intro because it gives greater fullness and richness and depth to what I'm talking about here now in this breakdown for everybody. And there's a reason why the full moon is giving greater burdens of responsibility in the area where it falls at this time. So do check out the intro for more pertinent personal knowledge about what is happening in your life. But here in the 8th house, you might be giving too much in terms of occult, things, occult information, or giving too much to, how you're receiving from the world at large. The 8th house is to receive from the world, and the community resources, and maybe you're giving too much time and energy and attention to caring for community resources, and it's leaving you feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. Maybe you're giving too much time and attention to sorting out grandma's will, or dealing with some sort of legacy or inheritance or something like that, and it's just left you feeling fatigued, worn out, exhausted. These are 8th house things that I've just described. Because of these pressures in this area, community resources, dealing with wills and legacies and other people's money in some way, maybe dealing with the share market, maybe dealing with financial planning kind of matters, very 8th house, maybe dealing with crisis situations has left you feeling fatigued and worn out. Hello, I'll put my hand up for that one. Dealing with the energies that are playing out in the world that everybody's worried about and concerned about, and you're trying to crisis manage the situation. I for one have had a lot of people contacting me lately, wanting, I don't know, insight, knowledge, advice, or whatever regarding this crisis situation. In a sense, I feel a bit like a crisis manager, but really all I want to do is some Pisces social isolating and run away from it all. It's all too much for me, I'm feeling overwhelmed, overburdened with the fears around this crisis situation. So this can be highlighted under the full moon. And because of this, and because of the configuration that the moon is making at the moment, we might be very emotionally overreactive to these things in our life right now, or polarically, we might be very emotionally repressive regarding those things in our life right now. For example, I might have the umpteenth dozenth phone call for the day, to help someone sort of sort out one of their crisis feelings or experiences or emotions, and I'm just so over it that I absolutely lose my shit and I'm mean and nasty, and I have an over emotional response to the poor person who's just struggling with the energies out there. And that's obviously not an appropriate reaction, but it can happen under this energy of this full moon. Equally, we might find that we are emotionally repressing. Oh my God, I'm so sick of dealing with this crisis situation, or I'm sick of trying to sort out grandma's will, or I can't handle these community resource responsibilities anymore, and it's doing my head in, and we just internalize our emotional pressures and end up in the fetal position, rocking on the floor because we are just so overwhelmed by the pressures of the 8th house burdens and responsibilities that we are feeling at this time. Neither of those is a good way to be. What the full moon is asking of us is to integrate two polaric opposite energies. And what it is to do the Libra thing, to seek a diplomatic outcome, a win-win situation between Aries energy, where the sun sits, which is all about my needs, myself, my journey, and the needs of others, other people's needs, other people's journey, other people's experiences. We need, right now, if we're Pisces rising, to focus on reaching a beautiful integration between the needs of self and the needs of others pertaining to the 8th house. So maybe it is that I draw a line in the sand and say, you know what? I can't answer everybody's phone calls right now. I just need to protect my own energy. And maybe I'm going to socially isolate for a little bit and retreat a little bit more to be able to cope, you know? So here's a message that I'm going to put up on Facebook to encourage everybody, or to share my thoughts with everybody if that's what you're after. And, you know, you can either take that, if you want. There's a sort of what we would hope a win for everybody else, and a win for me, where I can have my space and my peace and my balance and my harmony also. Perhaps it's, you know, you're sorting out Granny's legacy or her will or something like that, and you need to reach a compromise. Libra is compromise, but one where you don't lose and the other person doesn't lose. There's a mutual gain here, a win-win situation that comes with a legacy or a will. Maybe there has to be a mutual win-win situation with your sharing of occult topics or your researching of occult topics, where, you know, you've been wanting to study astrology or something, and, you know, you can only afford so much money for a course or whatever, and so you reach a compromise. You don't get frustrated about it, don't lose it about it. You simply say, well, look, maybe I can organize a payment plan and do a month by month or something like that, so that I can continue to research my astrology or my whatever occult topic it happens to be. Maybe you do, if you're someone like me who's putting occult knowledge out there into the world, you reach a compromise that's fair to you. You know, I'm exhausted by doing this right now with the energies on the planet, so I'm going to pare back and do whatever. Actually, that's what I am doing. If you listen to my intro, I am not going to be doing a video next week because I'm choosing instead to focus on me and my needs, and go on a vision quest, which hopefully in the long run will bring greater psychic attunement and wisdom and depth to what I do share here on my channel. So it's in balancing and harmonizing the energy of self and the energy of others, and reaching that win-win situation that we can navigate this energy and deal with the extra responsibilities we're feeling right now by putting boundaries in place. Hello Pisces, you'll need to do that. Put some boundaries in place, and also watch our emotional expression. Be aware that our emotional expression could be quite, you know, turned up to overdrive at this time in not healthy ways, and to take conscious action around those things. So that is all signs. Thanks for sticking with me for that. I hope there was something of insight and value for you in this video today. I want to finish with a prayer. So, energy of love in the universe, thank you so much for your presence on the planet right now. May we tap into the energy of love. May we tap into the energy of joy. May we tap into the energy of peace in our lives, despite what is going on the planet these days. As we are entering a week of interesting upheavals from the full moon and all the associated energies that are playing out, please help us to manifest the highest level, the highest potential of these energies, so that we can be a blessing to our own lives and a blessing to the lives of others and all who we come in contact with. And so it is. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'll have another video for you in 2 weeks' time. I will also be having my Saturn series, Saturn Through the Houses, continuing to happen on Sunday mornings, so do join me for that. But it'll be 2 weeks before another Astro Weather Report, and I will see you then. God bless.